My name is Ethan Vance, but my current identity is a bit complicated. I've been dropped into a novel, specifically one of those trashy, old-school billionaire romance novels. I'm the son of the female lead's long-lost love, the one that got away. According to the original plot, my dad, Henry Vance, was supposed to be the unforgettable first love of the female CEO, Victoria Lancaster. He took off for Europe with a bun in the oven, his own beer belly, not a baby, and promised to return in 3 years to marry her. Turns out, my dad is the king of procrastination. 3 years turned into 30. Right now, we're in a private hospital in Los Angeles. My dad is lying in bed, hooked up to a bunch of tubes. Most of them are just monitoring the survival rate of his recent hair plugs. He tremulously removes his oxygen mask, grabs my hand, and a single, cloudy tear rolls down his cheek. Ethan, son, I'm not going to make it. I stare at him deadpan. Dad, that's just the heartburn from the jumbo bucket of buffalo wings you ate. Stop acting. The doctor said all your vitals are better than mine, except for your cholesterol. Henry's face flushes, but he's got a thick skin. He instantly slips back into that classic look of his. 30% cold indifference, 30% mockery, and 40% pure, shameless audacity. You don't understand, son. This is a sickness of the heart. He pulls a battered old flip phone from under his pillow, then a yellowed photograph, and shoves them into my hands. 30 years ago, I made a promise to the queen of New York high society, Victoria Lancaster. I told her I was going abroad to study, and I'd be back in 3 years to marry her. I just didn't expect the burgers in Europe to be so damn good. One bite turned into 30 years. I roll my eyes, and I heard recently that she's still waiting for me. For my sake, she never married. She even found a stand-in. Never married? The gossip rags call her the Elizabeth Taylor of Wall Street, with a divorce for every decade. I keep my mouth shut, not wanting to trigger his drama queen antics. Henry takes a deep breath, his tone tragic. In my current state, going back would shatter her fantasy. I was supposed to be the cool, ethereal artist type. Now I'm more of a greasy, has-been type. So Ethan, you have to go in my place. You look just like I did when I was young. Go back to New York, see how she's doing. If she still loves me, tell her. I loved her once. With that, the old man's head lolls to the side, his tongue hangs out, and he plays dead. I'm speechless. The heart monitor next to the bed lets out a long, flat beep. I glance down. He'd kicked the plug out of the wall with his foot. I have no choice. To inherit the old bastard's remaining few $100,000, most of it scammed from lonely widows. I'm sure. I have to clean up this mess. I look at the photo in my hand. It's a woman in a power suit with shoulders wider than a linebacker, her big hair permed into a tsunami wave. Her eyes are sharp enough to get a fish. This is Victoria Lancaster, the woman who supposedly holds the global economy in her perfectly manicured fist. I sigh, pack my bags, and get on a flight back to the East Coast. I never imagined that what was waiting for me wasn't a heartwarming reunion. After a 6-hour flight, the plane lands at JFK International Airport. I'm wheeling my suitcase through the arrivals gate when the scene in front of me stops me dead in my tracks. I've seen some things in my life, but I've never seen anything like this. Normally, in those billionaire novels, the airport pickup involves 2 rows of stone-faced bodyguards in black suits and sunglasses, looking like a mafia funeral procession. There are no men in black here. Instead, there are 2 rows of middle-aged women in matching, brightly colored sequin tracksuits. They're holding pink feather fans and have portable speakers strapped to their waists. Stretched between them is a 30-foot-long banner, yellow text on a red background. A hero's welcome to Ethan Vance, son of the ultimate romantic, Henry Vance. The entire Lancaster empire pays tribute to the one that got away. My toes curl inside my shoes so hard I think I'm about to carve a new subway tunnel with them. Travelers around me stop to take pictures, pointing and whispering. What the hell? Is this some kind of cult retreat? Henry Vance? Isn't that the guy who scammed a dozen heiresses in the 90s? I pull my baseball cap down, trying to blend in with the crowd and escape. Just then, the speakers roar to life. It's not some grand orchestral piece. It's a terrible techno remix of Dolly Parton's 9 to 5. Tumble out of bed, and I stumble to the kitchen. Amidst the deafening beat, the tracksuit squad suddenly parts, creating a runway. A figure emerges, backlit by the airport lights, walking slowly toward me. It's a woman. A woman who looks to be in her 50s, but is dressed like she's 25. She's wearing a designer Chanel suit, though the skirt is a little tight, squeezing the fat around her waist into a noticeable life preserver. She's teetering on a pair of 4-inch stilettos, walking like she's on stilts, her knees trembling with every step. Her face is hidden behind sunglasses bigger than her head, and she's holding a lace fan. This has to be her, Victoria Lancaster, the legendary take-no-prisoners tycoon who's made grown men weep. She stops about 10 feet in front of me. According to the script, this is when she's supposed to take off her sunglasses, look at me with complicated emotions, and whisper the resemblance. It's uncanny. Reality, however, had other plans. The moment she stops, she loses her balance. A combination of unstable stilettos and probably osteoporosis causes her ankle to give way. Oh, holy crap. A distinctly un-billionaire-like yelp cuts through the air. This titan of industry, this woman worth more than most small countries, performs a perfect faceplant right at my feet. The entire terminal goes silent. Only the remix of 9 to 5 continues, blissfully unaware. Work a 9 to 5. What a way to make a living. I stand frozen, my hand still on my suitcase. Do I help her up? Do I not? Should I say, Your Majesty, please rise? Or maybe just, Happy New Year? In the split second I hesitate, Victoria Lancaster shows the grit of a true CEO. In an incredibly contorted movement, she uses one hand to push off the floor, forcing her disastrous fall into a one-knee proposal pose. I hear a distinct crack from her kneecap. She raises her head, trembling. Her sunglasses have slid down her nose, revealing eyes caked in smoky eyeshadow, with crow's feet deep enough to trap insects. She gazes at me, her voice shaking, clearly from the pain. Man, you're finally back. I take a deep breath, try to act like a normal human being. Ma'am, I'm Ethan Vance. Henry didn't come back. He's in the ICU playing with his ventilator tubes. Victoria freezes for a second. Then, a smile spreads across her lips. How to describe it? The book would call it a San Fungi Shao, a mocking smirk. But to me, it looks more like the paralyzed grin of someone who just got way too much Botox. I know. Victoria, groaning, gets to her feet with the help of 2 bodyguards. She extends a hand covered in massive emerald rings, reaching for my face. Your eyes, they're exactly like his, especially that look of pure, unadulterated stupidity. Can I call the police? This feels like harassment. Just as her fingers are about to touch my collagen-rich cheek, a figure darts out from the side. Victoria, you can't. The voice is shrill and piercing, like a cartoon character who just stubbed their toe. I turn my head. A middle-aged man in a tight purple suit, with a bald spot the size of a saucer and a beer belly threatening to pop the buttons off his shirt, is rolling toward us like a bowling ball. He throws himself between me and Victoria, his face a mask of grief. What shocks me most are the few pathetic strands of hair he has left, meticulously combed over his shiny scalp in a sad little barcode pattern. This is the famous second male lead. The one who stood by Victoria for 30 years, content to be a stand-in, asking for nothing in return. Mortimer Finch. I look at his face, ravaged by time and excessive oil production. Then I think of my dad, who, despite being a scumbag, at least still looks human. I can't help but wonder, Victoria, what happened to your taste in men over the last 30 years? Was there some kind of nuclear-level downgrade? This isn't a story about a stand-in. This is a research paper on species mutation. Mortimer stares at me, his eyes filled with hostility. He points a limp-wrist finger at my nose. So, this is the son of that heartbreaker? He's nothing special, all pointy-chinned and fake-looking. Probably had work done. Not like me, all natural and organic. I look at his features, which are squeezed together by his excess weight, and think you're all natural, all right. A naturally grown potato. Victoria frowns, snapping coldly. Mortimer, shut up. In this house, you do as you're told. Know your place. You are nothing but a shadow of Henry. At her words, Mortimer trembles. He clutches his chest in a dramatic pose, though it looks less like a heartbroken damsel and more like a man having a massive coronary. A shadow. Huh. So after 30 years of devotion, I'm still just a shadow. Victoria, you cruel, heartless woman. He tries to squeeze out a few tears, but his face is so greasy they get stuck in his smile lines. I feel like I'm about to throw up my breakfast. These two, with a combined age of over 100, are acting out a cheesy soap opera in the middle of JFK. Don't they have any consideration for the mental state of the onlookers? Enough. Victoria waves her hand dismissively, nearly knocking off Mortimer's toupee. Ethan just got back. He must be tired. Alfred, where's the car? At that moment, a frail old man pushes a wheelchair toward us. He looks at least 80, holding a hearing aid in his hand, and asks shakily, "Huh? What did you say, madam? A bar? Where are we going? Are the communists invading?" This butler is something else. Victoria is clearly used to it. She leans in and shouts in his ear, "I said, get the car. We're going home." "Oh, home. You scare me. I thought you said you were joining a monastery." Alfred wipes the sweat from his brow and presses a button on his key fob. At the curb is a stretched Lincoln Town car. But this thing looks like it's seen better days. A lot better. The paint is peeling, the headlights are yellowed, and the exhaust pipe occasionally sputters a cloud of black smoke, like a senior citizen with chronic bronchitis. The most insane part is that instead of a hood ornament, there's a framed black and white photo of my dad, Henry Vance. The photo is surrounded by a wreath of white carnations. I freeze at the car door, pointing at the picture. "Mrs. Lancaster, what? What is this? My dad isn't dead yet." Victoria gazes at the photo, her eyes misting over. This is to remind me, every day, that in my heart his memory lives on. My mouth twitches. "Ma'am, you usually say that about dead people." "Quiet." Mortimer snipes from the side. "You're just a child. You don't understand Victoria's deep devotion. This is her way of mourning her dead love life." I look at the hearse on wheels and feel a deep sense of refusal. "Can we just get an Uber? I have a coupon." "No." Victoria grabs my arm with surprising strength. I feel my bones creak as she shoves me into the car. "Once you enter my world, you play by my rules." This was Henry's favorite model. It's failed its emissions test 3 times, but I paid a fortune to have it restored. Inside the car, the atmosphere is beyond weird. Victoria sits in the middle. I'm on her left, Mortimer on her right. Alfred is driving up front at the speed of a drowsy snail, but the whole car is shaking so violently I'm pretty sure it's about to fall apart. Victoria keeps staring at me. Her gaze is intense as a heat lamp on a rotisserie chicken. "Ethan, your father, did he really never mention me?" she asks, still hopeful. I answer honestly, "He did. He said you were the most unique woman he'd ever met." "Most what?" Victoria's eyes light up. "Most beautiful, most gentle." I remember my dad's actual words. The most gullible rich chick he'd ever conned. But I decide to be kind. "Wealthy." Victoria doesn't seem thrilled with that answer, but she accepts it. Naturally. In the last 30 years, I've built an empire. Also that when he returned, he would see that I, Victoria Lancaster, was no longer the little girl who cried over everything. As she says this, she suddenly lunges, not quite a wall slam, but a seat slam. She braces one hand on the seat behind me, leaning in close, trying to create a romantic mood. Just then, the car hits a pothole. Thwack! Her forehead slams directly into mine. "Ow! Ack!" We both cry out, clutching our heads. Seeing his chance, Mortimer lunges forward like a rabid dog. "Victoria, are you okay? Did you get a concussion? Let me see. I told you this kid was bad luck. The moment he shows up, you get hurt." He uses the opportunity to try and touch her face with his greasy hands. Victoria slaps his hand away, glaring at me. But her eyes hold a flicker of excitement. Such a hard head. The feeling, it's just like Henry's. He used to slam his head into mine, just like that. I stare at her in horror. Somebody help me. This isn't a story about a long-lost love. It's a BDSM fantasy starring a senior citizen. What the hell did my dad do to her? Did he abuse her so much she turned into a masochist? "Alfred, faster." Victoria, clutching the giant lump on her forehead, waves her hand imperiously. "I'm taking Ethan home to see the museum of love I've built for his father." Up front, Alfred's hand slips. He floors the accelerator instead of the brake. Vroom! The old clunker lets out a death rattle and, spewing black smoke, shoots forward like a bat out of hell. I gripped the handle for dear life, watching the scenery blur past, with only one thought in my mind. Dad, I want to go home. Can I just forget about the inheritance? The car, which felt like it was about to disintegrate at any moment, finally screeched to a halt. I was so shaken up, the airplane meal in my stomach felt like it had been through a blender. We're here. Victoria adjusted her sunglasses and pointed out the window at a massive European-style mansion. Ethan, this was meant to be our love nest, even though your father never spent a single day in it. I've kept it exactly as it was, and even expanded it over the years. I looked up. Holy hell, this wasn't a mansion. This was a low-budget Disneyland in the suburbs. Instead of stone lions, the main gate was flanked by two 7-foot-tall statues. On the left was Rodin's The Thinker, but with my dad's face. On the right was the Venus de Milo, also with my dad's face. Just imagine it. A Venus de Milo with Henry Vance's smug, smirking face, armless, gazing lovingly at you. My sanity points were dropping fast. Mrs. Lancaster, isn't this a bit avant-garde? You don't get it. It's postmodernist longing. Mortimer chimed in from the side, pausing to adjust his two precious strands of hair. Victoria had it specially commissioned from a famous Italian artist. It symbolizes that Henry is everywhere. It symbolizes that Henry's ghost is haunting this place, I thought. Walking into the main hall was like taking a nuclear warhead to the eyeballs. The walls, they were covered, floor to ceiling, with photos. Every square inch. All of them were of Henry Vance. But something was wrong with these pictures. I pointed at a giant oil painting in the center of the room, my hand shaking. Ma'am, did my dad used to have 6 fingers? And why is his head photoshopped on a Captain America's body? Victoria squinted, leaning in so close her nose was almost touching the canvas. Does he? I can't see that well. Mortimer told me this was the new trend. Something called cyberpunk. I turned to look at Mortimer. The bald bastard, with his back to Victoria, shot me a greasy, triumphant smirk. I see. I finally get it. This old snake, Mortimer, took advantage of Victoria's bad eyesight and sabotaged every single picture in this house. There wasn't just Captain America Henry. There was Teletubby Henry. There was even one with his face pasted onto one of the dancers from a Magic Mike poster. The most insane part was the label under each photo. Portrait of a romantic hero of the face that launched 1,000 ships. Henry Vance, so you think you can dance. Henry Special Edition. Victoria lovingly caressed the face of the Teletubby Henry, sighing, "Look at this purple suit. So regal. Henry always had such unique taste." I cover my face, unable to look. Dad, if you're listening from your ICU bed in L.A., if you knew you'd been turned into a Teletubby, you'd probably rip out your own 4 and have a miraculous recovery just to come here and burn this place down. Alfred, Victoria suddenly shouted. Alfred came scurrying out of the kitchen, holding a large leak. Coming. Is it time to hang yourself? I couldn't find any rope. Will this leak do? Victoria took a deep, calming breath. Hang myself? No. I said, serve dinner. Ethan is hungry. Dinner began in an atmosphere of extreme awkwardness. A long, formal dining table. Victoria sat at the head, like an empress. I was on her left, Mortimer on her right. We were about 10 feet apart, so conversation was basically shouting. Ethan, Victoria said, looking at me kindly, "Are you settling in okay? Feel free to ask for anything you want to eat. Mortimer specially prepared this welcome feast for you." I looked at Mortimer. He was performing surgery on a piece of broccoli with his knife and fork. Hearing her words, he offered a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "That's right, nephew. I heard you young people like Western food, something a little wild. I had the chef prepare a top-grade A5 Wagyu steak just for you." A moment later, a waiter placed a plate in front of me. I looked down and fell silent. This wasn't a steak. This was a slab of raw meat, freshly cut from a cow and still warm. You couldn't even call it rare. It was basically still mooing. I half expected that if I performed CPR on it, the cow would get up and run away. Bloody juices pooled on the plate and dripped onto the table. "Eat up, nephew," Mortimer said, watching me with a challenging glint in his eye. "What's wrong? Not to your taste. This is how the aristocrats eat. It preserves the natural essence of the ingredients. Old folks like me have weak stomachs, so we have to eat our meat well done. I'm so jealous of your youthful digestive system. This old bastard. He want me to get food poisoning and die on the toilet, doesn't he? Just as I was about to refuse, Victoria spoke up. Mortimer is right. Henry always liked his meat bloody. He said it made him feel primal. Go on, Ethan. Don't disappoint your Uncle Mortimer. I looked at Victoria's expectant face. I couldn't see her eyes clearly through her thick glasses, but I could feel the pressure. I looked back at the slab of pulsating beef. Here goes nothing. I sliced off a tiny piece, closed my eyes, and shoved it into my mouth. In that instant, I felt like I was on the African savanna, gnawing on a freshly killed wildebeest. It was gamey, raw, cold. I fought back the urge to vomit and swallowed it whole. Delicious. I forced a smile and gave thumbs up. Uncle Mortimer, you're too kind. But you're looking a little pale. Are you anemic? This steak is so rich in iron. Why don't you have some? With that, I speared a large, dripping chunk of meat with my fork, stood up, and leaned across the table, holding it out to Mortimer's mouth. Here, Uncle, for your health. Mortimer's face turned white. He shrank back. No, I'm a vegetarian. I've been cleansing my spirit lately. Come on, don't be shy. I reached over and tried to stuff the meat into his mouth. In the ensuing struggle, Mortimer's already precarious toupee finally gave up the ghost. Plop! A black, hairy object fell directly into his cream of mushroom soup. White soup splashed all over his face. The room fell dead silent. Mortimer touched his shiny, bare head, then looked at the toupee floating in his soup like a dead rat. I froze. I wanted to mess with him, but I didn't want him to die of public humiliation. Eowalla! Mortimer let out a scream like a terrified groundhog. He clutched his head, tears streaming down his oily face. Victoria, he disrespected me. He scalped me. Wah! I can't go on. Victoria slammed her silverware on the table, making the candlesticks jump. That's enough, she boomed. She stood up and pointed at Mortimer. What are you crying about? It's just a toupee. I'll have Alfred buy you 10 tomorrow. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. You can wear a different color every day and be the freaking Power Rangers. Then she looked at me, her gaze softening slightly. Ethan, you stop it too. Get some rest tonight. Alfred, bring me that bottle of 1982 Bengay. Mortimer's back is probably acting up again from all that crying. Alfred was still standing there, studying the toupee. Madam, why is there hair in the soup? Did the chef not wash the mushrooms properly? I couldn't sleep. I was starving after that dinner disaster. I was about to sneak down to the kitchen for some ramen when I heard a soft knock on my door. Knock, knock, knock. It was quiet, but in the silence of the massive house, it sounded incredibly creepy. I checked my phone. 1 a.m. At this hour, it could only be a ghost or... I opened the door. Victoria Lancaster was standing there. I almost fell to my knees. She'd changed. She was wearing a seductive, black, semi-transparent lace nightgown. That would have been fine on its own, but it was a chilly night. So, underneath the see-through lace, she was wearing a thick, fleece-lined, bright red set of long johns, the kind your grandma wears, complete with reinforced patches on the knees. Black lace over red flannel. It was a fashion train wreck, a crime against vision. Mrs. Lancaster, what are you? I swallowed hard, my eyes stinging from the sight. Victoria was holding a glass of warm milk, a self-satisfied, sultry smile on her face. Ethan, can't sleep? I saw your light was on. She walked into the room, kicking the door shut behind her. I wanted to talk to you about your deadbeat father. She placed the milk on the nightstand and started walking toward me, one slow step at a time. I backed away until my back hit the wall. Ma'am, let's just talk. Aren't you? Hot and all that. Hot. Victoria's eyes fluttered, though it looked more like she was about to fall asleep. My heart is hot, so my body is hot. Seeing your face reminds me of that night, 30 years ago. She suddenly slammed her hand on the wall next to my head, the legendary wall slam. But her flannel long johns were so bulky that her arm couldn't extend properly. The pose looked less intimidating and more like a warm-up exercise from a senior's fitness video. Woman, you're playing with fire. My brain short-circuited. Ma'am, that's the male lead's line. You're the female lead. Ignoring me, she continued her dramatic performance. Man, now that you're back, you're not getting away from me again. Tonight, I'm collecting my debt. With interest, she leaned in closer, her bright red lips puckered for a kiss. I closed my eyes in despair. Dad, I'm sorry. For a few $100,000, I'm about to lose my virtue to a rich cougar in flannel pajamas. Just in the nick of time. Crack! A loud, sickening sound of a bone popping out of place echoed through the room. It was followed by Victoria's blood-curdling scream. Oh my God, my back! She froze, stuck in a wall-slam pose, her face wrinkling up like a dried orange. Don't move. Ethan, don't move, she hissed, cold sweat beading on her forehead. I threw it out. I think my spine just snapped. My fear of being kissed was instantly replaced by the fear of being an accomplice to a medical emergency. Ma'am, are you okay? I rushed to support her. Quick, get me to a hospital. I think I'm dying. Victoria sagged against me, her red long johns now looking particularly alarming. Without a second thought, I swept her up in a princess carry. She looked thin, but with her bone density and fleece-lined pajamas, she was surprisingly heavy. Gritting my teeth, I carried her out of the room and sprinted downstairs. Help! Somebody! The CEO has thrown out her back. My shout woke up the entire mansion. The door to the next room flew open. Mortimer, dressed in a green dinosaur onesie, yes, with a tail, and without his toupee, came running out, looking terrified. When he saw me carrying a disheveled Victoria, her nightgown open and revealing the red flannel beneath, his eyes widened into saucers. Ethan Vance, what are you doing? You monster. You'd even go after a woman in her 50s. Let her go. Let me carry her. Mortimer's shriek was heart-wrenching as he chased after me on his little dinosaur legs. Shut up and get the car. We're going to hospital. I yelled back as I ran. I don't believe you. You're trying to elope. This is just a cover story. Mortimer had clearly watched too many soap operas. He actually tried to grab my leg. Get off me, you old fossil. I kicked him away and burst through the front door with Victoria in my arms. Alfred was standing in the yard in his boxer shorts, waving a flashlight around. What's happening? An earthquake? I told her that chandelier wasn't secure. Keys. I snatched the car keys from his hand. I wasn't taking the Lincoln hearse again. It was too slow. Parked next to it was a red Ferrari, probably Victoria's from her younger days. I carefully placed Victoria in the passenger seat and buckled her in. She was groaning in pain. Gently. My old bones. I jumped into the driver's seat and floored it. Vroom! The Ferrari shot out of the driveway like an arrow. In the rearview mirror, I saw Mortimer frantically chasing us on a pink electric scooter, the kind the maids use for grocery runs. The wind whipped at his dinosaur onesie, making it billow out like an overinflated balloon. Victoria, don't leave me. I have your insurance card. His desperate cries faded into the night. I looked at Victoria in the passenger seat, her face contorted in pain, but still trying to maintain a shred of dignity. Then I glanced back at the bald dinosaur man, chasing a Ferrari on a pink scooter. I gripped the steering wheel as tears streamed down my face. What fresh hell is this? This is high society. If this is high society, I'd rather go back to my hometown and shovel pig manure. Ethan, Victoria suddenly grabbed my hand, her eyes hazy with pain. This speed, it reminds me of racing with your father. He was just like this, driving his tractor with one hand while we went to steal corn from the neighbor's farm. My foot slipped on the pedal. I almost slammed on the brakes. Ma'am, please, no more reminiscing. Any more memories, and we'll both end up meeting my grandpa in the afterlife. We burst into the nearest private hospital's ER. Doctor, emergency. She threw out her back. The young doctor on duty saw Victoria's lace-in flannel ensemble, and his glasses nearly fell off his face. After a quick examination, he pushed his glasses up his nose and looked at us grimly. The patient is suffering from an acute herniated disc, common in older individuals. It was likely triggered by some sort of strenuous physical activity involving a position not appropriate for her age group. He gave me a look that said, "Dude, you have some weird tastes." I was speechless. "Doctor, it's not what you think." She was trying to wall slam me. No need to explain. The doctor waved his hand. I get it. Billionaire drama. I read the tabloids. But you young people need to be more careful. An older person's bones are very fragile. Just then, the ER doors burst open. Victoria, Mortimer had arrived. His scooter must have died because he ran in panting and sweating, the tail of his dinosaur suit dragging on the floor. He threw himself at the bedside, sobbing. "Victoria, are you okay? Did this beast force himself on you? I knew it. He's a menace, just like his father." Victoria, who had been given a painkiller, was feeling a little better. She weakly raised her hand to pat Mortimer's bald head. "Mortimer, you poor thing. Chasing a Ferrari on a scooter. All those squats you do at the gym really paid off." Mortimer grabbed her hand. "For you, Victoria, I would have chased it on a pig." I stood off to the side, feeling like a 1,000-watt light bulb in a broom closet. "So, since Mr. Finch is here, I'll just go." I tried to slip away. "Stay right there," Victoria barked. She struggled to sit up, wincing in pain, but her voice as commanding as ever. "Tomorrow, you come to the office. I'm officially appointing you as my special assistant to the CEO." Mortimer whipped his head around, his eyes burning with jealousy. "Victoria, what about me? I've been with you for 30 years, and I'm just a vice manager of administration." Victoria snorted. "You? When you figure out how to grow some hair, I'll make you a full manager." Mortimer clutched his bald head, taking a direct hit to his soul. I looked at the collection of misfits in the room and sighed. My life of suffering was just beginning. The next morning, I was woken by the sound of Mortimer pounding on my door. "Nephew, rise and shine. Thinking of being late on your first day? Want Victoria to dock your pay?" I opened the door, 2 giant black circles under my eyes. Mortimer was bursting with energy, dressed in a brand new, fluorescent pink suit. It seemed Victoria's fashion sense was contagious. He was wearing a new toupee that looked like a bird's nest and carrying a bag with a smoothie and a croissant. "Here, a gesture of goodwill from your elder. I didn't put any laxatives in the smoothie, I promise." He grinned like a weasel. I took a sip. "No laxatives but the taste. Uncle Morty, is this sugar-free?" "Not just sugar-free, it's also expired," he said, raising an eyebrow. "I decided that instead of killing you quickly, I'd slowly torture your taste buds. Let's go." The driver's waiting. Half an hour later, we arrive at the Lancaster Vance Eternal Love International Financial Center in the heart of the city's business district. Looking at the massive, flashing pink neon sign on top of the skyscraper, I felt my retinas being violated. The entire building was shaped like a giant heart. As we walked into the lobby, the receptionist saw me and immediately started whispering. "Look, that must be him. The legendary boy toy. He's cute, but what a shame. So young and already gave up on having a career. I heard he's here to pay off his father's debts." How tragic. I endured the stares of thousands of employees with a blank face. The elevator took us straight to the top floor. Victoria was already sitting behind a desk the size of a small apartment. She was wearing a black and gold power suit, a string of prayer beads around her neck, and was rolling 2 walnuts in her hand. She looked less like a CEO and more like a fortune teller who'd just descended from a mountain. "Ethan, you're here." Victoria pointed to a small, child-sized desk next to hers. "From now on, this is your workspace. I want you as close to me as possible, so every time I look up, I can see that face that looks so much like that good-for-nothing ex of mine." I stared at the desk, which still had a work hard, play hard sticker on it. "Ma'am, isn't this desk a little small? I can't fit my legs under it." "You'll manage," Mortimer said with a smug grin. Victoria had it brought in from an elementary school. She said it would help you maintain your childlike innocence. Unlike me, stuck out here in my spacious vice manager's office. So lonely. "Mortimer," Victoria's voice was ice. "If you're so lonely, you can go clean the bathrooms on this floor." The janitor called in sick. The smile on Mortimer's face froze, then cracked. Victoria, I'm the vice manager of administration. And now you're also the janitor, a man of many talents," Victoria declared with a wave of her hand. "Alfred, get him a uniform. Make it fluorescent green, so he stands out." Even though he was demoted, Mortimer hadn't given up on tormenting me. During my lunch break, I got into the elevator planning to buy some actual food from the convenience store downstairs. Just as the doors were closing, a hand in a yellow rubber glove shot in. Mortimer shuffled in, holding a mop and wearing a grim expression. It was just the 2 of us. The atmosphere suddenly felt like a tense scene from a mob movie. Mortimer hit the emergency stop button, and the elevator hung, suspended between floors. He tossed the mop aside, peeled off his gloves, and pulled out a checkbook. He scribbled down a number. Rirup. He flicked the check at my face. Ethan, let's cut the crap. Mortimer crossed his arms, trying to look cool. In a fluorescent green janitor's uniform, he just looked like a mutated traffic cone. Here's $5 million. Take the money and get on the next flight back to L.A. Leave Victoria. She's mine. I caught the piece of paper. For a second, I was tempted. $5 million. With that kind of money, why would I stick around and play games with these lunatics? I could retire to the Maldives. I looked down at the check. My smile faded. Uncle Morty, this check. What? Not enough, he sneered. Don't be greedy. That's my life savings from the last 30 years. I sighed and held the check up for him to see. It's not that. But this check is from the Bank of the Underworld. And why is it dated 1998? Mortimer squinted at it. Oh dear, wrong one. That's the one I was going to burn as an offering for your father. He fumbled in his pockets for another minute before scratching his head in embarrassment. I think I left the real checkbook at home. How about I Venmo you? But my daily limit is only $200. I stuffed the fake check back into his pocket and patted his shoulder. Uncle Morty, stop pretending. I know you're broke. Victoria keeps a tight leash on the finances, doesn't she? It must have been tough for you these last 30 years. In that moment, I saw Mortimer's defenses crumble. His eyes welled up, and he threw his arms around me. You're right, nephew. You're so right. Wah, it's been so hard. I wanted to be a kept man, but this job is killing me. She only gives me $500 a month for allowance. I'm a grown man. I can't even afford a decent pack of cigarettes. Being hugged by a sobbing man in a janitor's uniform reeking of toilet bowl cleaner was a new low for me. There, Uncle Morty. Don't cry. I've got your back. Just then, the elevator doors opened. A group of employees stood outside, staring. Their expressions went from shock to dawning comprehension. Oh my God, so that's the real story? The CEO's boy toy and the janitor. What a power couple. I ship it. Me. Mortimer. Just as the rumors about me and Mortimer were reaching a fever pitch, an unexpected guest arrived. A representative from our rival company, Maverick Corp. He was here to negotiate for the development rights to a prime piece of real estate downtown. In a conference room, Victoria sat at the head of the table, and I sat beside her, pretending to take notes. The doors were thrown open. A blast of obnoxious TikTok dance music filled the room. A guy who looked barely out of his teens strode in. He was wearing skinny jeans so tight they were a medical hazard, loafers with no socks, and a t-shirt that said villain under a shrunken blazer. The blazer was unbuttoned, revealing a large chest tattoo of Peppa Pig. He walked with a strange, bouncy gait, like he had springs on his feet. He stopped at the head of the table, struck a pose, and flicked his bangs out of his eyes. So, this is Lancaster Empire? Not impressed. Victoria frowned, adjusting her glasses. Who are you? Did security let a flea in? The guy gave a smirk that was more of a facial twitch. Remember the name? Woman. It's Blade Maverick. I'm here to buy your company. Of course, if you agree to be my woman, I might consider letting you keep your job. The entire room went silent. I dropped my pen. This was the legendary rival CEO. He looked like he'd just escaped from a cringe compilation video. Mortimer, who was standing in the corner with his mop, began to tremble with rage. Insolence. Who is this stray dog? How dare you speak to my Victoria like that? Only Henry gets to speak to her like that. Blade glanced at Mortimer and sneered. Old man, nobody's talking to you. Say another word, and I'll have my boys turn you into a meme. Victoria didn't understand the slang, but she understood the disrespect. Mr. Maverick, please be professional. If you're here to do business, let's do business. Blade suddenly leaned across the table, getting close to Victoria. Business? What business? Let's talk about love. Baby, are you a parking ticket? Because you've got fine written all over you. PFFFD. I spit out the water I just sipped. Victoria turned to me, completely bewildered. Ethan, what did he say? Did I hear him right? Did he just compare me to a parking ticket? I wiped my mouth. Ma'am, it's a Gen Z pickup line. He's hitting on you. Hitting on me? Victoria's face darkened. With a line so bad, I wouldn't even hear it at a dive bar. Blade, thinking his charm wasn't working, decided to double down. He pulled a wilted rose from his pocket, stuck it between his teeth, and broke into a spastic, flailing dance right there in the conference room. Haters gonna hate, But I'm the one they're watching, he yelled. Come with me, baby. Be my queen. His performance left not just me, but the world-weary Victoria completely stunned. She pointed a trembling finger at the gyrating Blade. Alfred, call an ambulance. I think this kid is having a seizure. Blade Maverick arrival created an unprecedented sense of crisis for both me and Mortimer. The guy was an idiot, but his company was a real threat. And with his insane level of unearned confidence, he might actually manage to charm Victoria. Her taste was questionable at best. In the break room, Mortimer threw down his mop and grabbed my arm. Ethan, we have to form an alliance. I can't stand you, but I hate that grasshopper in the skinny jeans even more. If he takes over, we're both finished. He'll turn this company into a TikTok dance studio. I nodded gravely. You're right, Uncle Morty. For the good of this company, and to save my eardrums from his terrible music, we have to take him down. How? Mortimer asked. Poison? Kidnapping? Should I just hit him with my mop? Nothing illegal, I said with a sly grin. The final bid presentation is tomorrow, right? Blade will have to show his PowerPoint. We'll just make a few adjustments. Mortimer's eyes lit up. You mean you're going to replace his presentation with something much more entertaining? That night, Mortimer and I snuck in the conference room. He kept the cleaning lady distracted while I worked my magic, which basically involved cracking the password on Blade's flash drive, which was, of course, 123456. I looked through Blade's presentation. It was full of meaningless corporate buzzwords. Synergy, leveraging assets, paradigm shifts. Oh, you want to look impressive, do you? My fingers flew across the keyboard. I replaced the background image on every single slide with a high-resolution photo of my dad on a beach, wearing floral swim trunks and picking his toes. Then, I changed his dramatic background music from Beethoven's Fifth to a horrible techno remix of a cheesy country song. Finally, for the last slide, I embedded a looping video that Mortimer had provided, a clip of a monkey aggressively stealing a banana from a tourist, which he claimed was Victoria's least favorite video in the world. Done. I closed the laptop and gave Mortimer the thumbs up. He pumped his fist. Brilliant. Let's see him talk his way out of this. The next morning at 10, the presentation began. Victoria sat at the head of the table, radiating power. A few journalists were also present. Blade Maverick, dressed today in a full sequin suit that made him look like a human disco ball, strode confidently to the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, today, I'm going to show you the future of business. He clicked the remote. The giant screen lit up. The first slide appeared. The background was a massive, crystal-clear photo of my dad, Henry Vance, grinning like an idiot while picking his toes on a beach. The title of the slide read, Maverick Corp, Digging for the Future. The room erupted in whispers. The journalist's cameras flashed wildly. Victoria froze, then shot to her feet, staring at the screen. And, Henry? That's from his trip to Miami. Oh my God, you can even see the sand between his toes. Blade, with his back to the screen, was still deep in his speech. As you can see, our project, much like this image, is full of, why is everyone laughing? He turned around. What the hell? He yelped. This isn't my presentation. Who did this? He fumbled with the remote, trying to change the slide, but accidentally hit the play button for the music. Boom CH, boom CH, boom CH. An ear-splitting techno beat blasted through the speakers. The presentation started advancing automatically. Slide after slide of my dad's most embarrassing moments flashed across the screen. Picking his nose, drooling in his sleep, eating a watermelon shirtless. As Victoria watched, her eyes started to get misty. It's him. It's really him. I've never even seen these photos. She actually started to sway to the beat. Blade was panicking now. Turn it off. Someone turn it off. In his haste, he hit the button that played the final video. The monkey and banana video. The monkey screeched and flailed on screen, its movements perfectly timed to the horrible techno music. That's when Mortimer made his move. He saw his chance to be the hero. He burst into the room, yelling, "Protect Victoria! This fiend is using black magic." He then pulled out a feather fan from somewhere and started doing a bizarre, shuffling dance. Don't worry, Victoria. I will use my righteous energy to defeat his evil. I was dumbfounded. This was corporate warfare? It looked more like a rave at a retirement home. Seeing a dance-off, Blade's instincts took over. He ripped off his blazer, revealing his villain t-shirt, and started doing his own spastic dance moves. You want a battle? You got one. And so, a multi-billion-dollar project proposal turned into a dance battle between a TikTok wannabe and an old man in a janitor's uniform. Victoria sat between them, watching with a dazed expression as if transported back to her wild disco days. Suddenly, she stood up and shouted, "Stop! Stop! You're both wonderful. The project is off. We're building a community dance center on that land." I slid down in my chair, hiding my face in my hands. "Help me. I want to go back to LA. I want to go back to the ICU and help my dad play with his ventilator tubes. This world is too much for me." Just then my phone buzzed. It was a video call from Henry Vance. My hand shaking, I answered. On the screen, my dad's head was wrapped in a bandage, but the background was a luxury hotel room. He was holding a coconut and looked tanned and healthy. "Hey son, how's it going? Did you see Victoria yet?" His voice was loud, and because the music had just stopped, it echoed through the silent conference room. Everyone froze. Blade was mid-dance move. Mortimer was mid-shuffle. Victoria was mid-proclamation. All eyes turned to my phone. Victoria's pupils shrank. Her voice trembled like a leaf in a storm. "And, Henry, aren't you supposed to be in the ICU? Are you drinking from a coconut?" The room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. The only sound came from my phone's speaker, the gentle lapping of waves and the faint, cheerful strains of a Jimmy Buffett song. On the screen, my supposedly dying father, Henry Vance, was lounging on a beach chair, wearing sunglasses. He had on a pair of loud Hawaiian swim trunks, his shirtless torso revealing a well-seasoned beer belly. In one hand, he held a coconut with a straw in it. In the other, a bottle of sunscreen. He looked radiant, invigorated. There wasn't a single thing about him that screamed dying. He looked like he'd just been fully recharged. "Ethan," Henry yelled from the other side of the world. "Why aren't you talking? Bad signal? I swear the Wi-Fi in Thailand sucks. Not like back home." I held the phone, which now felt like a live grenade. I wanted to hang up, but my fingers had gone numb. "Dad," I managed to squeeze out. "Weren't you in the ICU?" Henry chuckled, taking a long sip from his coconut. "That was just to make your Auntie Victoria feel sorry for me. You think she would have let you in the door if she didn't think I was dying? So did you see the old hag? Is she all wrinkled and dried up like an old prune?" Boom. The temperature in the room dropped by 30 degrees. A chilling aura emanating from the head of the table washed over me. Victoria slowly stood up. Her expression was calm. Too calm. Like the eerie silence before a volcanic eruption. She walked toward me, each click of her heels on the marble floor sounding like a hammer blow on my skull. She reached out and, with a slow, deliberate motion, took the phone from my hand. Then she brought her face close to the camera. She took off her glasses, revealing those smoky, mascara-laden eyes, now blazing with a furious inferno. "Henry Vance." Her voice was a deadly whisper, a silken promise of pain. On the other end, Henry clearly hadn't caught on. He squinted at the screen. "Whoa, who's this broad? Nice makeup, looks like a raccoon. Hey son, is this the new maid you hired?" I squeezed my eyes shut. "Dad, rest in peace. This time you're really a dead man. Not even a miracle can save you." A muscle in Victoria's cheek twitched. Her smile was more terrifying than any frown. "Maid? Henry Vance, you open your goddamn eyes and look closely. I'm your old prune. I'm your gullible hag. I'm the Victoria Lancaster you've been lying to for 30 years. On the screen, Henry choked on his coconut water, spraying it all over the camera. The coconut fell from his hand, his sunglasses went flying, and he tumbled out his beach chair face first into the sand. "Holy, Victoria!" Henry's face went pale, whiter than it had ever been when he was faking his illness. You can hear me? Ethan, you traitor. You told me you were calling me from the bathroom." I tried to defend myself weakly. "Dad, I didn't call you, you called me." Victoria didn't give him a chance to explain. She stared daggers at the screen, her chest heaving. "Henry Vance, you're not dying? You're on vacation in Thailand. Didn't you tell me you had a terminal illness and had to be cryogenically frozen in America, or you'd be dead in 3 days? Didn't you tell me you stayed single for me? That you were celibate for 30 years? Henry scrambled up from the sand, frantically trying to backpedal. "Victoria, honey, listen. This is This is experimental sun therapy. The doctor said I had to absorb the sun's energy to stay alive. I'm getting treatment. Treatment. Victoria's laugh was a bitter, scraping sound. Does treatment involve drinking from a coconut? Does it involve dancing on the beach? Does it involve the two bikini-clad women who were just rubbing oil on your belly? In the corner of the video frame, two young Thai women looked at the camera, confused. One of them gave a friendly wave. Henry awkwardly tried to block the camera. Those are my nurses. My private nurses. Enough. Victoria slammed her hand on the table, making the water bottles jump. Henry Vance, I can handle you lying to me about us. I accept that I was a fool in love. But her tone shifted, her eyes narrowing with the cold, calculating glint of a predator cornering its prey. 30 years ago, when you left, you borrowed $30 million from me for a startup fund. With 30 years of inflation, compound interest, and emotional distress damages. When are you planning to pay me back? I was stunned. Mortimer was stunned. Even Blade Maverick stopped his dancing. So this wasn't a romance novel? This was an episode of Judge Judy? $30 million. 30 years ago, that was an astronomical sum of money. On the screen, Henry was clearly not expecting her to bring up the money. He stammered, "Come on, Victoria. Money talk is so tacky. What we had was real love. And love is priceless." Priceless my ass. Victoria spat on the floor. Henry Vance, let me tell you something. I've had my love-addled brain surgically removed. I am now Victoria 2.0, and I only care about money. I thought you were dead, so I was going to write it off as a loss. But since you're alive and living it up, she took a deep breath and roared into the phone. You will pay me back, or I will fly to Thailand and personally render you down for biofuel. Mortimer, who had been hiding in the corner, suddenly had an epiphany. He looked at the greasy, lying, very much alive man on the screen. He looked at the furious, powerful Victoria. He finally understood. The man he'd been jealous of for 3 decades was nothing but a deadbeat con artist. This meant he still had a chance. If he could help Victoria get her money back. Rhea, Mortimer let out a battle cry. He threw down his fan and charged toward the screen like an enraged bull. Henry Vance, you old bastard, he screamed, pointing at the screen. You made Victoria suffer. Because she missed you. She could only comfort herself by eating caviar and sleeping alone in her 10,000 square foot bed. And you took her money to go party in Thailand. I, Mortimer Finch, may be bald, but I have integrity. Henry looked at the bald man on screen, utterly confused. Who's this egg? Victoria, did you hire a new bodyguard? Egg. Those words hit Mortimer like a physical blow. He trembled with rage. Perhaps it was the anger, or perhaps the sweat from his earlier dancing had dissolved the glue. At the very moment he needed to look his most imposing. His stylish, expensive toupee slid off. It peeled off his shiny scalp like a dead leaf and flopped onto the floor, revealing his head, gleaming under the conference room lights like a freshly polished bowling ball. The room fell silent once again. Blade Maverick snorted, trying to stifle a laugh. But I didn't laugh, because I saw a new light in Mortimer's eyes. It wasn't embarrassment. It was the light of a man who had nothing left to lose. Mortimer didn't even bother to pick up his hairpiece. He rubbed his bald head, his expression hardening with newfound resolve. That's right. I am an egg, but I am an egg who loves Victoria. He spun around and dropped to one knee before her. Victoria, give the order. Now that we know this scumbag is alive, I, Mortimer Finch, will hunt him to the ends of the earth. I will bring him back and make him sell a kidney to pay you back. Victoria looked at the man before her, bald, a little paunchy, but in that moment, strangely heroic. She was touched. This was true devotion. He might be ugly, but he was loyal, dependable, and apparently willing to be her enforcer. All right. Victoria pulled Mortimer to his feet, her eyes burning with the fire of vengeance. Mortimer, as of today, you are the president of the new debt collection division. Alfred, the old butler, who had been dozing by the door, jolted awake. Huh, is it lunchtime? Get the jet ready, Victoria commanded. The private jet. File a flight plan. We're going to Thailand. And pack the essentials. My grandmother's antique feather duster and my diamond-encrusted taser. The conference room descended into chaos. Blade Maverick watched the scene unfold, then quietly packed up his flash drive. He walked over to me and patted my shoulder sympathetically. Bro, this is way too hardcore for me. Maverick Corp is out. I'm withdrawing my bid. I don't want to get caught in the crossfire. Peace out. With that, he shuffled out of the building in his loafers, leaving a trail of sequins behind him. I was still standing there, watching Victoria and Mortimer direct a team of bodyguards. Mrs. Lancaster? Uncle Morty. I raised my hand meekly. What about me? What should I do? Victoria stopped and turned to look at me. The warmth was gone from her eyes, replaced with the cold indifference one reserves for a hostage. You, she sneered. Your father owes me money. Until he pays it back, you are the collateral. From now on, you work for me to pay off his debt. You'll be paid minimum wage, and after deducting room and board, the rest will go toward the interest. My vision went black. Ma'am, the interest on $30 million. I'll be working for you until I die. Then you'll just have to be reincarnated and keep working. Mortimer chimed in excitedly. Don't worry, nephew. I'll keep an eye on you. I have to go with Victoria to Thailand now for a business trip. The company is in your hands. Make sure you clean the toilets. I'll inspect them when I get back. And with that, the 100-year-old duo of debt collectors stormed out of the room, followed by 20 bodyguards carrying an assortment of implements, including folding chairs, megaphones, and several crates of expired, extra stinky fermented tofu. Before she left, Victoria held the phone up to her mouth and said coldly, Henry Vance, you'd better start running. Because if you're not fast enough, I'm going to break your third leg. On the other end, Henry let out a pig-like squeal. Ethan, save me. Son, save your father. Buy me a ticket to Mars. Victoria mercilessly ended the call. 3 days later, JFK International Airport. I stood by the window, watching a pink private jet take off. It was Victoria's plane, the Vengeance. Alfred, who had been left behind due to his motion sickness, told me that Victoria and Mortimer had already drafted a 100-point plan for torturing my father. It included, but was not limited to, making him perform TikTok dances for 24 hours straight while wearing a hula skirt, forcing him to eat 50 pounds of durian, and supergluing all his hair plugs to his chest hair. The thought made my skin crawl. Young master, stop looking, Alfred said, handing me a broom. Madam left instructions. From now on, you're in charge of cleaning this entire skyscraper. She called it paying your father's debt through manual labor. I took the broom and looked up at the towering, heart-shaped building. In that moment, I finally understood. Fairy tales are all lies. There's no such thing as a long-lost love or a domineering CEO. In the end, it's all just business. My phone buzzed. It was a text from my dad. Son, don't say I never did anything for you. Before I went on the run, I left that Bank of the Underworld checkbook under your pillow. It's worthless, but it's the thought that counts. P.S. That Blade Maverick kid is your second cousin. If things get too tough, go find him. I hear he's looking for a backup dancer. I stared at the screen and let out a laugh that was half sob, half insanity. I took a deep breath, flipped a middle finger at the sky, and then picked up my broom and headed for the men's room. Damn this stupid novel. Damn this stupid rich family. Damn this stupid thing called love. Just then, the airport's PA system crackled to life. Attention all passengers. Flight 999, the Vengeance, bound for Bangkok, is requesting an emergency landing. Due to a bald passenger's toupee getting sucked into and clogging an air conditioning vent. The broom slipped from my grasp and clattered to the floor. I looked up at the sky, and for the first time in a long time, a genuine smile spread across my face. This story was actually getting pretty damn interesting. End.